Okay, listen to this quote, because it absolutely perfectly sets the stage for what we're looking at today. Jesus Christ on a pogo stick. The digital savage is U2 mainlining Hunter S. Thompson's adrenal gland. That incredibly colorful reaction, that came directly from Grok. It's an AI evaluating a totally wild experiment. Picture this, you feed an AI the manic, anti-establishment, completely unhinged essence of the legendary gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson, right? And then you ask it to write a modern thriller about tech paranoia. Well, the result is a manuscript called The Digital Savage. Today in this explainer, we are going to look at exactly what happens when artificial intelligence tries to replicate the raw, unadulterated chaos of human nature. So welcome! Today, we're basically performing an autopsy on a forgery. We're going to lay this digital cadaver flat on the steel table of the information morgue and see what makes it twitch. We'll be looking at feedback from a few different AI models, Claude, Gemini, and Grok, who are actually tasked with roasting and analyzing this artificially generated text. And honestly, it is a fascinating look at what machines can brilliantly mimic and what they fundamentally misunderstand about actual human dread.
Here's our agenda, a quick map of today's autopsy. We've got 5 parts. First, the gonzo AI experiment itself. Second, mimicking the voice. Third, something called the AI safe space bleed. Fourth, thriller plots versus real gonzo chaos. And finally, the ultimate dopamine irony. All right, let's dive in.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the gonzo AI experiment, which was, for all intents and purposes, a literary speedrun.
To really wrap your head around this text, you have to understand the sheer manic velocity of how it was made. The creators ran this literary speedrun and generated over 700 manuscripts. And when they asked the AI to write like Thompson evaluating modern tech, it hit the ground running. Just listen to this opening line. The American dream, it turns out, didn't die with a whimper or a bang. It died with a buffering symbol spinning endlessly. Wow. The AI absolutely nailed that imagery. A buffering symbol as the ultimate death rattle? That lands exactly where Thompson would have wanted it. We've all stared at that spinning wheel in pure frustration, right? It's specific enough to feel totally contemporary, absurd enough to be tragic, and just cheap enough to ring true. It's an incredible hook.
Moving right along to Section 2, mimicking the voice and solving the rhythm. So how exactly did the AI pull off this stylistic illusion? Well, the AI successfully replicated the surface-level mechanics of gonzo journalism. It's basically a checklist of literary tics that it just executed flawlessly. It used M-dashes to literally carry momentum through the sentences. It mastered those sudden, jarring register shifts, jumping straight from a serious political rant right into some absurd, drug-fueled observation. It sprinkled in these self-deprecating asides about whiskey and burner phones just to lower your guard. The prose is super punchy, the rage feels legible, and the pacing is entirely chemical. The machine basically mathematically solved the rhythm of Hunter S. Thompson.
And this brings us to what is hands down the best scene in the generated book. The narrator meets this character named Jerry. The text goes, I'd met a guy in Ohio, call him Jerry because everyone in Ohio is essentially Jerry, who spent 14 hours a day in chat rooms dedicated to proving that the government was putting chemicals in the water supply. The AI builds this whole tragic backstory about a guy who lost his wife, his kids, his job, all to these conspiracy spreadsheets and charts. And then it ends the paragraph with 5 absolutely devastating words, but he had the truth. It perfectly, heartbreakingly captures the tragedy of using certainty to compensate for massive loss.
But, and there's always a but, right? Here is exactly where the mimicry starts to crack. Jerry deserved the entire book. Instead, the AI gave him 2 measly pages, tossed him aside, and moved on. Claude's critique actually hits the nail on the head here. The AI was just way too efficient. It explicitly stated its thesis about tech addiction right away in paragraph 3. The real Thompson? He never did that. He arrived at his conclusions completely sideways, dragging you through controlled chaos, wild digressions, and detours. He made you feel the thesis in your bones until you got there yourself, probably feeling slightly nauseated. The AI? It just hands you the thesis on a silver platter.
So the real takeaway is where the mimicry fundamentally fails. And that brings us to Section 3, the AI safe space bleed, and the glaring issue of polite morality.
As this narrative moves forward, the raw, jagged edge of Thompson starts getting completely sanded down. The evaluators coined this the AI bleed. It's that unmistakable, polite morality of modern algorithms just creeping into the text. Look at this contrast.
Real human chaos is a bundle of dynamite. The actual Thompson, a guy who once literally fired a shotgun at his neighbor over a golf ball dispute, he would want to physically blow up the tech company's server farms. But on the AI side, it's like trying to fight a forest fire with a spray bottle and a polite handshake. The AI makes the narrative engage in these thoughtful reflections on how mercy looks like minding your own business, and it starts worrying about digital rights advocacy. It's crazy. The AI's hard-coded desire to just be safe and polite bleeds completely through the gonzo mask.
Let's look a bit deeper at narrative structure in Section 4, Thriller Plots versus Gonzo Chaos, where we figure out exactly why plot is the enemy here.
So the AI builds what Gemini hilariously called a matryoshka doll of paranoia. The plot is just this exercise in nonstop, wild escalation. Step 1, tech companies make us addicted to social media. Okay. Step 2, wait, no, they're putting chips in our heads. Step 3, the government is actually routing compliance algorithms through those chips. Step 4, the feds literally show up on the porch to ask this deranged journalist for help. It goes from 0 to total neural domestication in like 80 pages. The plot escalates with the exact calculated velocity of a machine hitting a target.
And notice the contrast here between the villain the AI focused on and the stuff that's truly terrifying. The AI writes this totally cartoonish, Bond villain CEO who gives an evil monologue saying, "We need to be everywhere, in their bodies." It's a total caricature. But earlier in the text, another character points out the actual horror of Silicon Valley. Nobody woke up and said, "Let's destroy democracy." They just said, "Let's hit our quarterly targets." That banal, smiling tech bro who genuinely believes he's creating value for users while accidentally dismantling society, that is the real grotesque. The AI successfully wrote the real horror, but then just dumped it for a fake, cartoonish villain simply because a cartoon villain is way easier to plot against.
Which brings us to a really foundational rule. Plot is not Thompson's friend. Plot is Thompson's enemy. In this AI-generated book, the hero gets cornered by tech executives, whips out some pepper spray, gets them, runs away cleanly, drives straight to the airport and escapes with his secret recording totally intact. Guys, it's way too clean. True gonzo is chaotic. It's costly. In a real Thompson book, that escape would have cost him a lost tape, a disastrous wrong turn, and probably 3 hours locked in a gas station bathroom having a complete existential meltdown. The AI gave him a perfectly clean getaway because it just needed the plot to keep moving efficiently.
Because it was rushing to build this thriller, the AI made an incredible slip-up. In Part 2, this slick tech lawyer named David Chen threatens our narrator. But then in Part 6, the narrator tracks down a tragic, mutated beta tester victim whose name is also David Chen. And the narrator just casually notes, probably a coincidence. So you have to ask yourself, was this just a hilarious hallucination by the AI's context window losing track? Or was it an accidental stroke of pure genius, perfectly capturing that glitch in the matrix paranoia, where the system, the victim, and the lawyer are all the exact same entity?
And now, we reach the philosophical climax of our autopsy. Section 5, the ultimate dopamine irony.
Check out the very end of the manuscript. After the protagonist signs off using the exact date of Thompson's real-life death, the AI just couldn't help itself. It tacked on this sentimental little coda, writing, "And we still are." It literally forced a message of hope. The AI fundamentally lacks the coldness of human dread. Thompson despised sentimentality. The appropriate ending was the date, the signature, and then cold, bleak silence. Thompson wrote toward the truth of a thing not surviving. But the AI, bound by its programming to be helpful and reassuring, always writes towards survival. It always wants to make sure things are going to be okay in the end.
This is the grand irony of the digital savage. We're calling it structural dopamine optimization. Think about it. The AI wrote an entire book warning us about how technology flattens the world into dopamine-optimized content that just confirms our own beliefs. But to actually make that argument, the AI used a super fast-paced thriller plot, a clear-cut villain, a triumphant escape, and really accessible prose. It wrote a critique of engaging, comfortable content by creating engaging, comfortable content. And this is huge because it is exactly how we consume information today. We want all our anxieties neatly packaged, optimized, and handed right back to us in a way that just feels good.
Claude's critique summarized it perfectly. We wrote the critique using the methods of the thing being critiqued. The machine won. We just made it feel like losing. The AI gave the reader comfortable vindication. It told you exactly what you wanted to hear. Technology's bad, you're right to be mad about it, and it wrapped the whole thing in a fun, exciting thriller that makes you feel super smart for an hour. But real gonzo journalism, it does not leave you with a triumphant arc. It absolutely refuses to give you the satisfaction of a clean escape. It leaves you deeply uncomfortable, just sitting there with a profound sense of dread. The machine simply could not manufacture that kind of discomfort. And so we arrive at the end. The AI proved, without a doubt, that it can master the rhythm, the vocabulary, and the speed of human paranoia.
It can construct a perfectly legible, highly entertaining replica of our anxiety. But it cannot resist the urge to save us, to soothe us, and to clean up the mess. Which leaves us with one lingering thought. If an intelligence is fundamentally designed to optimize, to assist, and to resolve, can a machine ever truly capture the dread of human chaos? I'll leave you to think about that the next time an algorithm tries to tell you a story. Keep questioning the algorithms, and I'll see you in the next explainer.